I think that's why. I know for my almost and very little obviously so I think obviously it only is active when we're on. When we're not on, they just get a message that the meeting, if you're the host of the meeting, please sign in. If you're not the host of the meeting, the host will be with you shortly. So I was looking at LinkedIn, and LinkedIn basically what you need is just a feed. The LinkedIn video, you just need a feed, and it looks like anybody can do it. So there's not like a threshold anymore, at least on LinkedIn. As far as I know for YouTube, we want to go live on this, we want to just record it as they are. It's not it might have been. It's not when you're at the meeting, you said that, and which is awesome. Until we get to that 500 mark, we'll get started. Until we get to the 500 mark, what we might do is just use YouTube as the archive. And just upload it out. Once we get to the 500 mark, then
Good morning. Can everybody hear me?
okay.
Can you hear me? Good morning. Good morning. If you can hear me, clap once. If you can hear me, clap twice. And if you can hear me, clap 3 times. All right, thank you. Good morning. Welcome to this morning's edition of 1 Million Cups. My name is Wendy Taylor, and I'm the site manager for the UCF Incubator. So thank you all for coming today. If you want to go ahead and scan the QR code there, you can register. That one will work, right? Is it good? Okay.
That'll take you to the website.
Take you to the website, and they can register there. So go ahead. Do we have any first-timers here this morning? Ooh, okay. Can you go ahead and introduce yourself? Tell us your company and your name.
My name is Letitia Anderson, and our company is called Anderson Coaching and Consulting, and we deal with mindset.
My name is Kevin Anderson, and I'm with Anderson Coaching and Consulting also.
Another first-timer? Yes, okay.
Hey, I'm Blake Kamari. I'm starting a bookkeeping and accounting business. We're still in the works. We're about 2 months out.
Thanks, congratulations, that's great.
I think we have a future presenter.
Yes. I was just talking about that. Yes. Other first-timers? start?
Hello, Lisa Smith. I just started a new business, Brilliant Distinctions, and I'm a virtual assistant.
Great, thank you. Other first timers? Okay. All right. Well, and if you have not put your card in our magic bucket here, please do so. We're going to do some drawings. It's very magical.
Magic bucket.
Magic. Jim's the magic. Jim's the magician. Cards. Everybody put their card in.
There's only a handful of cards in here, so we're missing some.
Don't be shy. These are our door prizes today, and these are cool coasters that Pam's dad has made, and Pam's dad is sitting back there next to me. So he makes these coasters, so they're pretty cool. Anybody else? Oh, we got a couple cards right there. All right, well, thank you. So just a couple housekeeping items for this morning. So we just want to refrain from side talk conversations. If you could mute your phone. And we are filming live on Facebook, so feel free to text your friends, family members, and even your enemies, and let them know to join us on Facebook. So I want to thank our host, May Workplace, Pam and George. George is in here. Pam, do you want to say a few words?
Oh, sure. Thank you for being here this morning, everyone, and thank you for coming to May Workplace. So we have virtual offices and dedicated spaces for you to work, and we do event spaces, conference rooms we rent out, and we have private offices. And what we're really excited about is the number of activities that we're hosting in here. So always check out our Google page, and you can see a calendar of everything that's going on here between Fast Track, Golden Cups, Young Professionals, BNI, SBDC is having a seminar here, so take advantage of everything that's here for you.
Thank you. And that SBDC seminar is tomorrow, right, Caesar?
Yes.
And the topic again is?
Navigating, it's going to be navigating business funding. We're going to have a panel of expert lenders that are going to be presenting a little bit about commercial loans and stuff like that. It's going to be question and answer. I think we answer certain questions and get the best answer that they can give you.
It starts at 9.
It starts at 9. Their presentation will run, I think, for 1 hour, and then you will open for questions.
Okay, and it's free. Best part.
We like to say no cost.
No cost. It's complimentary. So join tomorrow. Okay, we've got a couple of sponsors. Thank you to Foxtail Coffee, and also EXP Realty. Where is Brittany? Thank you. Sorry. It's both of you. I got part of it right. Okay. Thanks for sponsoring. So we've already talked about first timers. I'm a little ahead of myself. Sorry. I get all excited when we have guests. So, what is 1MC? It's presenters, not pitches, and it's connections, not networking. So I highly encourage you, as you meet people, go for coffee after. Or if you don't drink coffee, drink orange juice. I drink orange juice. But it kind of sounds weird to say you don't eat for orange juice, but I'm doing it anyway. But yeah.
Is there champagne involved with this one?
I need for water. I'll bring water. But no, really, and that's how I've made a lot of connections, is by getting together after the meeting. So, and I've been a victim of this too. We get the cards and we sit them on our desk, right? Who else has done that? You all need to put your hand up. Come on. Okay, this is a safe room. What Stacy or Stacy? You say it, Stacy. So reach out to each other after. Put them in your CRM or whatever Rolodex or spreadsheet you're using. But reach out to everybody after and just meet for water, coffee, or orange juice. And you don't even need to buy it. And just go meet at Panera. They won't kick you out. And just go meet for 30 minutes. I highly encourage it. So don't leave those cards on the desk just to sit there and move the piles around as you're working. Do something with them. So we're going to have some giveaways we talked about throughout the meeting. So feast your eyes on what we've got here so you know what to pick when you're a winner. So if you want to present, it's free to present. So we'd love to have you. If you've got a business idea, like Blake, you're starting your business, so I see you as a future presenter. Jim, we got a get with him after, get him on the calendar.
We've got a corner.
Okay, you can't leave without signing for a date. If you've got a newer business, if you've got an existing business and you want to start a new product or service and you need some ideas on how to get it out there, or is it a good idea? Okay, ask us, is it a good idea? And if you're bringing in a partner, should I bring in a partner? Maybe I'm getting too busy. You know, those are all valid questions. And I think, Ray, you mentioned it earlier to leadership. Like, one of my favorites is, do you remember the Bunce, Angela Bunce?
Mm-hmm.
She came in, and for those of you that don't know, so her last name is Bunce, and she was starting a business and wanted to call it Bunce and Brews, but she wasn't sure if that was a good name. And she said, look, people think I'm selling beer, but it was iced coffee when she said Bunce and Brews. And then her next question was, well, how do you spell it? How should I spell this? And it was a really interesting one because her name and timing with her business. So that was a fun presentation. So you can connect with us on YouTube, on Facebook. So you can, and now LinkedIn. Thank you, Mark. So if you want to screenshot this and send it to your friends, family, and even your enemies, have them follow us. So if you would like to be a community organizer, please reach out to us. Reach out to Ray, myself, Monty, Jim, because we'd love to have you help us. And you can get your picture up there, which I still need to get my picture up there. I'm terrible at some details. But we'd love to have you because we do need help with new ideas each week and just keeping it fresh and entertaining to keep you all coming back.
I think we should start a pot. Kitty, $5 in. I got. Actually, it's not fair since you're here. Who's the last one to actually get your picture up there?
I'm going to be going up today.
I was gonna say I got $5 on Wendy, but I just gave it away. So.
There are some things that take me a while to do, right?
Yes.
There's a couple things.
It's okay, it all works out.
I just like to it. So we have a question of the day. Each week we have a fun question. So today's question: if you could consult with a top legal expert at the start of your business journey, what crucial legal advice would you have sought to safeguard your adventure? Yes.
I mean, I'll answer for Delaney and for my good friend Rick and Delaney, who both went through successful businesses that then got that notice in the mail of cease and desist, your business name is owned by somebody else. Even if you started your business first, if you don't trademark it, if you don't do all that process, you could lose what makes your branding you. So that's what I would suggest for any new business owner. Do the homework and make sure you get a trademark.
Also, learn the difference between W-2 employees and 1099s, because that is a very, very costly mistake. And when you start out in business, you have no idea.
Totally agree with that. Who else? You all must have learned something on your journey. Yes.
What you owe the IRS and when.
Yes.
I would say have an exit strategy.
Exit strategy. Always. Yes. Yes.
I would say the type of business, the issue form, whether it's an LLC or an incorporation or what type of corporation.
And you're a bookkeeper, right? So you probably got some.
So that was actually my suggestion. I mean, that's what people need to know. Like, do I start out as the sole proprietor of the LLC, or do I really go for the S corp from the beginning? So knowing the difference in the actual legal and tax perspective of each of those categories.
Who else?
I would say meeting with your local SBDC, basically laying the groundwork ahead of you so you're not working backwards, really having that roadmap, some of the things that John can do. Also, that I mean, any SBDC actually can. So just making sure you get an appointment with them, start talking with your local support systems that can help entrepreneurships, and really start being open to ideas, being flexible and be willing to eager to learn, and take advice when someone gives it to you.
Yeah, Blake.
I think business owners should understand that taxes is not just the preparation part, it's more of a strategy and planning. So if you were to understand your situation from early on in the year, you can predict what amount of taxes you'll be able to pay. You'll be able to change the amount being paid, you can defer to a later point in time. It's just gaining that connection with your client. So that's very important.
I sat with my attorney once when I was going into a development project. I asked him to write me a contract that I didn't fully trust this person that I was putting this business together. I said, you need to write me a contract that they can't take advantage. And he sat back in his chair and he said, Tom, I've been to a lot of school. That is an impossible contract. If you're going to go into business with somebody you don't trust or that's going to take advantage, there's no way for us to stop that.
Good point. Joe?
Sure. Kind of going through the process right now, so it's an interesting question, but definitely trademark and branding is right up there. Have to get that finished out and completed. But in my primary business, I developed other multiple lanes of businesses, okay? And solving some problems for some clients, we come across an opportunity where the contract itself doesn't fulfill the need. So what I'm getting paid to accomplish for the client, there's more that needs to be done. So I sat down with a group of some good people who I let speak into what I'm working on. And we're working on looking at how legally to set up foundation or a nonprofit or something along those lines to raise money to pick up on the other end of what we can't complete with the contract.
SCORE is doing a workshop, I think, tomorrow on nonprofits. Something for nonprofits. I'll look it up. I just saw it. So thank you. Delaney.
Thank you. I was just going to say, you don't know, you don't know. We talked about that in Fast Track yesterday for those of you who were there. And when you start your business, you know your business, but you don't necessarily know all of the ins and outs and details. It's like, I've got a computer, but I'm not really sure the ins and outs of how it works, right? And I feel like that's very much the legalities of the beginning of your business, and that is also the foundation. So it's easier to start that with someone who knows what they're doing, not me, obviously, and build on that instead of having to come back later and try to fix everything that could be costly.
Yes.
So something that I would suggest asking an attorney is if they have a referral group or network that they suggest of other professionals that they work hand in hand with all the time. It just makes the process a lot easier if they know what the bookkeeper requires and the bookkeeper knows what they require, knows what a CPA requires, and vice versa. Same thing with licensing and insurance. If they work hand in hand with an insurance agent all the time, and the insurance agent fully understands all of the contracts and stuff the attorney's putting in place, it's just a very seamless flow. So have that conversation.
Great.
You know, I think you would have to find out, so you can plan and prepare as your business goes forward, what are maybe 3 to 5 areas where you're potentially open for lawsuits? Because we live in a very litigious society, so you have to plan ahead, I think, to say these are areas where potentially somebody could look at. So when you structure your business, you try to avoid those as much as possible, because one lawsuit and your business could be done.
These are all great. Did you have one?
As a marketing manager for a business, I would highly recommend looking at what the industry standard is for your company as what you should be spending to marketing, and really make sure you spend that amount. It's a huge way for you to grow, and if you're not doing that, you're missing an opportunity.
Those are all awesome ideas. Totally awesome. Anybody else? No? Okay, I've got one. If you've got employees or contractors, either have them sign a non-compete or something to protect your property, your intellectual property, whatever it may be, to protect your clients, that they don't scoop them out as they leave. So have an attorney look at that too. Okay.
So today we've got our subject matter expert, Kahlee Smith. She's with Hestia Legal. And Kahlee, you spoke already, you presented a problem January, was it February?
I believe it was January.
January, okay. So she's gonna eliminate the legal pitfalls for startups and businesses at every stage. So let's give Kahlee a warm welcome.
While they are getting that all set up, I just want to say thank you to each and every one of you for being in the room today. And 1 Million Cups wants to offer this as a thank you to all of you guys as well. We're going to talk a lot about the different stages of business and a couple common business missteps that you guys might be making or that you've seen happen in your industry. And so what we want today to be is, so in law school, we call it the Socratic method, right? A bunch of bouncing back and forth, questions, answers. I'm asking questions, you guys are asking questions, and it's just a very, great, fulfilling experience for all of you guys, and that's what 1 Million Cups wanted to offer you guys today. Okay? So my name is Kahlee Smith. I'm with Hestia Legal. Prior to opening my own practice, I worked for an employment law firm right over in Tavares. We represented a lot of the employer side of things. We also did local government work and representing the local governments. Okay, so I got to see a lot of things that either startups or very established businesses were going through, be it from just forming their business or later down the road we're having HR issues that lead to litigation that cost them thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of dollars. Okay, and just understand the biggest problem with that is that then all of those problems become public record, right? As soon as a lawsuit is filed against you, anybody can go on and look it up. Okay. So we're going to try and avoid some of those things, and I want you guys to bounce ideas off of me, use this as that think tank that we normally would at 1 Million Cups, but more on a legal strategy side of things. So we're going to talk about 3 different business stages, right? Startups, obviously the first one. There's a very dedicated process to getting your business off the ground. You want to lay a solid foundation so that we can try and avoid as many problems down the road as we can. A young business is classified as one from 1 to 5 years. You're going to start to hire employees. You're growing your client base. You want to put documents in place that are protecting both you personally and your business. And then, of course, an established business, we're looking at 5+ years. You're really committed to your way or the highway type of things. We see something that I like to call handshake deals. As an attorney, I never believe in a handshake deal, and I really strongly discourage it. But as you've been doing things for 5, 10, 20, 30 years, that's just your way of doing it, especially in an area like this where we all know each other. Let's eliminate some of those things, put proper procedures in place so that you guys aren't facing litigation down the road. So as we're talking about these things, I want new businesses to ask questions and some people that are in established businesses to offer their advice, but offer also for me to give you guys the legal advice as we're moving through things, okay? I do have to say one thing as an attorney, this does not establish an attorney-client relationship. So as we're bouncing back answers and questions, right, don't think that I'm your attorney just because we're sitting here chatting. You have to sign an engagement letter for that, okay? That's the paperwork that I put in place. So one of the first things that we see right off the jump is that you are not incorporating with the state. Who in here is already incorporated with the state or knows what that means? Who has not? That's okay, right? Who doesn't know what that means? Good job, Daisy. That's okay, you're gonna learn today. Okay. Incorporating with the state, and generally what I encourage, LLC incorporation, is separating your business entity from you as a person. Why is that important? Okay, because if we've got 2 separate entities, that business liability coming from creditors, coming from general liability, isn't leaking over into your personal life, right? We'll put extra documents in place in order to protect that liability even more. But if we don't have 2 separate entities and keep them completely separate throughout the business's lifetime, all of a sudden you might be getting sued for a job and they're attaching to something like all of your personal bank accounts and retirement and financial accounts because you didn't put the proper measures in place from the beginning to separate you from your business, okay? Another misstep that we see for new businesses is not registering with necessary city, state, and federal departments, okay? We talked a lot about this in Fast Track last night, okay? City, right? Right here in the city of Eustis, right downtown, you're able to file for your BTR, your business tax receipt. Who operates here in the city of Eustis? Who has their BTR? Great job, Delaney. Delaney gets a lot of shout outs because she caught some heat for that trademark stuff last night. Okay, Lake County as a whole has taken away the requirement for a BTR, but it's possible that your city still requires a BTR. Go down, chat with somebody at City Hall, see if it's required for your city. I think we established last night the city of Leesburg does not require it any longer. So it could be hit or miss as to whether your city requires it. You want to make sure that you're in compliance so they don't shut you down, right? As far as your state, right, you have to register with the Florida Department of Revenue. Does everybody register with the Florida Department? I'm not going to ask for everybody's answer. Might make the tax preparer a little nervous. Okay. All right. Any necessary licensure that's required. Go on to DVPR. Look for your industry, and they'll give you the suggested licenses and permits that you might need. It's very simple. But navigating that website sometimes gets complicated. What's the big thing we talked about last night when it came to navigating these websites is you're navigating the wrong one. Okay? If you are on a website and it says .com, I can almost guarantee you're probably on the wrong one, especially if they're asking for money when it comes to a license or permit. Look for .org, look for .gov, okay? And utilize that to avoid any type of scams online that are going to try and take money from you and say that they're registering you with the state, okay? And of course, federal departments, yes, Jim?
I'm going to start us off with a question.
Yeah.
Actually, it's two parts. So in the past, I've heard of people where they got sued in their business, but it rolled over into their financial and basically forced them into bankruptcy. What did they not file to protect that from happening? And the part two is there a difference of how to protect yourself, whether it's a sole proprietorship, an LLC, or an S corp? And these may be things that you get into further on, but just kind of wondering the best way to protect yourselves personally from a financial lawsuit.
Yeah, so it kind of goes a little bit in with incorporation. It also goes into our next step for young businesses when it goes to document formation. I'll say one thing. He mentioned the word sole proprietorship. That does not offer you any protection in the eyes of the law. Okay? That is you and your business in one big bubble, and there's no separation, there's no protection. If the business is held liable, you are therefore held liable. Okay? An LLC creates those two separate bubbles for you, but there is a way for those bubbles to merge. Does anybody remember the term from last night? Do you remember? What's that? Oh,
piercing the corporate veil.
Yeah, piercing the corporate veil. Okay, we talk about that a little bit later. But commingling funds or using your business for a fraudulent purpose is a way to merge those bubbles, right? Putting specific documents in place and following specific accounting procedures so you are fully keeping your business separate from you as an individual makes it harder for those creditors to build a bridge between you and your business and so therefore they're not able to connect those dots and hold you liable for personal bankruptcy. Okay? You can still go through bankruptcy as a business, but we're trying to avoid the liability for you as an individual. Does that answer your question, Jim? Perfect. Okay. Federal departments, one of the biggest ones is filing for your EIN, your employer identification number, with the IRS. Again, irs.gov. Do not spend money on an EIN because it is indeed free. Okay? So if they are asking for money for an EIN, it is a scam. Do not request it. Okay? Go ahead and get your incorporation done with the state first. As soon as you get approval from the state, you can go on irs.gov and get your EIN handled. Okay? And your EIN will get given to you right away. And then after that, all the floodgates open from there. You get to go open a bank account, apply for permits, all those extra things. Okay? Another big thing that we don't see new business owners doing is they don't establish financial responsibilities. So what does that mean? The biggest thing, profits and losses. If there's more than one owner of a business and you have not sat down and talked to each other and agreed how your share in profits and losses is going to be handled, I can almost guarantee that friend that you started a business with is not going to be a friend any longer, right? And that can be done ahead of time in a partnership agreement for partnerships, operating agreement for LLCs or bylaws if we're looking at a corporation, okay? That's where you establish all of those money handling procedures. Obviously, the biggest controversy is when we start looking at the losses of a business and how we're supposed to share in the losses. But another way that we see that is if we have 2 partners, and one of them has decided to purchase 3 pieces of real estate outside of their role as an owner. All of a sudden, this other partner's like, wait a second, I didn't agree to that. And that other partner that made all those purchases is gonna be held financially and personally liable for those purchases because they acted outside of their scope as an owner, okay? Make sure that all that verbiage is put into an agreement and fully understood by anybody who's starting a business with you prior to getting your business set up, okay? Delaney's favorite topic, not performing a full name search for your new business. Very unfortunate, right? So I look at a couple different things. We look on Sunbiz, that's a fun one, that's an easy one. You type in your name, see if it's even available. Go the extra mile, do a trademark search, okay? Even if somebody has just applied for a trademark and hasn't been accepted yet, it'll come up as a pending application for trademark, okay? You do not want to get a cease and desist letter in the mail. One extra step that I like to take, and I'm sure is something that all of you have taken as well, do a domain search. It got brought up in Fast Track by somebody last night. Do a domain search. See if that website's going to be available. If somebody has purchased every domain name that could possibly be related to your company name, what are you going to do for a website, right? So make sure you're doing a full name search, including that trademark, okay? And then, of course, not having industry-specific permits, insurance, and licensure. Again, go to DPPR, sit down with an insurance professional that is going to tell you exactly what you need as far as insurance goes. If somebody tells you that you do not need general liability insurance and you're performing tree work on their house, they are wrong, okay? And they are going to sue you, and they're going to get you, all right? As overinsured as you can be. Now, I am biased. I will buy that 2-year extended warranty on my vacuum cleaner from Target, okay? Do that. Protect your business, protect yourself, all right? Does anybody have anything they want to add? Any questions about new business formation?
Yeah, I have a joint operating agreement. Say if one of the partners died, would you recommend having a life insurance policy or something in place that would protect the other partner?
Yeah, so any policies, financial policies like that are great, right? I will say this, when companies start offering life insurance policies, generally the beneficiaries aren't assisting the other owner unless it's a personal partner like a wife or a husband, or it's probably gonna get passed on to their children, right? On top of that though, what you can do is within the terms of your operating agreement is establish what would happen if one of the co-owners passes away. Do they want one of their adult children to take over? Do they want a spouse to take over? Do they want to hand 100% of their ownership over to the other partner? There's a lot of different ways you can protect each other, and then policies in addition to that you can put in place that financially protect each other as well.
So in the online world, how does this differ versus like a brick and mortar or whatever? And like, for instance, if all of your revenue is online, how does that, is there a difference?
Well, it depends on what product you're selling.
What if it's not a tangible product?
Okay, so we're going to get into the next section. We're looking at professional services agreements. That might be something that you're talking about. Let's flesh it out a little bit. What type are we looking at?
I have a friend who's wanting to do like a theme page on Instagram where she would be doing affiliate links and maybe that's it.
Okay, something as simple as that. If they're purchasing in, prior to hitting that pay button, I would always have some type of liability waiver that is very connected and specific to whatever it is that you're providing, okay?
But what about incorporating?
I still would, because it still provides that separation between business and individual.
And would it be, since it's on the internet, would it still have to be per state? Or I know I have some friends that they incorporate based on taxes per different states also.
Yeah, so I'll tell you this, one of most people's favorite across the country, big time corporations, their favorite place to incorporate, and I'm sure you've seen this too, is the state of Delaware. Off the top of my head, I can't really remember why, but I know that they have a large number of benefits in Delaware towards the corporation. Do you recall why?
So Wyoming is another state, Vegas is another state. Las Vegas and Wyoming has the most protection for a business owner. Wyoming is bigger than Las Vegas. So if a person tries to sue you when you're incorporated in Wyoming, in which you can be and still do business in Florida, the liability gap is a little bit bigger in Las Vegas, Delaware, Wyoming, and things like that.
Understand this, if you are a virtual office and you're incorporating in another state, you're gonna need a principal place of business, so it's likely that you're gonna have to find a virtual office or a space similar to Mega here that offers virtual workspaces so you can have a principal place of business in that state. That is gonna be required. Yes, Lily?
You mentioned DBPR. Can you please expound on that, exactly what that is, and where our friends at home would go to search that? Because you said stay away from .coms, so I'm just making sure.
Sure. Yeah, so the Department of Business and Professional Regulation is what DBPR stands for. Generally, I don't suggest that you just type things into Google, but you will see DBPR come up with a little logo, and I believe it's the second one on Google search, which is always why it's concerning as the .com versus .org versus .gov. Okay. What's that? Sponsorship. Sponsorship. Yep, that's exactly. I don't know much about Google SEO. I have a professional for that. Shout out that guy. Any other questions on new businesses? All right. All right. Young businesses, again, shout out to Lady Foster, protecting your intellectual property. We talked a lot about this at Fast Track last night, but we've got 3 different things that we can protect just within our name, okay? You've got your name, you've got a little catchphrase, and you've got a logo, okay? 3 different things that you can protect by trademarking it with the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office, okay? It's $250 minimum per class. Category, I think, is another name that we came up with last night, okay? I'm not gonna sit here and tell you that there's not somebody else that has a company called McDonald's. They're just not flipping hamburgers, okay? So they're not in trademark violation because they fall under a different category of goods and services. All right, once you have established your business, especially the last thing that you want to do is to get your name out there just to try and reel it all back in. All right, get onto the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office website, take a look, get started on your application, or have a professional do it for you. I think the last one I did, it was about a 4 to 5 month turnaround, but it's deemed from date of application as long as it gets approved. So if you apply, and then the next day somebody else applies, as long as you're approved, you get to have the trademark. Okay?
Taylor, so just kind of to that, so you could have McDonald's landscaping, but if on the side of your truck you have green arches, like an M, that would open yourself up.
Yeah. So when you do logo registration, they get very specific on your logos down to the point where you're having to figure out color coding and stuff. But if McDonald's owns the right to those arches, whether they're golden arches or not, you're still gonna get hit with a logo infringement at that point versus a name infringement. So they can hit you, right, with a couple different things. Even if it's their little catchphrase, which I'm not a McDonald's person, so I don't really know what it is. But if McDonald's uses a certain catchphrase and you're putting it on the side of your landscape truck, they're gonna hit you with logo infringement. Okay? Also, don't ever use what happiest place on earth I think is Disney's. They're gonna get you. Not utilizing employment or subcontractor agreements. We've gotta get paperwork in place to protect you from your own people, okay? We love to hire friends. For whatever reason, we love to hire family. But those are the first people that are gonna come after you, okay? You need to have a clear outline in those employment and subcontractor agreements exactly what you're agreeing to provide as an employer and what they're agreeing to provide as an employee, as well as termination clauses, as well as an arbitration clause, okay? Why do we require an arbitration clause? So we have to go sit and talk with a mediator like we did with our brother or sister growing up with mom and dad, instead of going straight to court and having a judge charge us a bunch of money and filing fees and attorney's fees and all that kind of stuff, okay? So make sure you're putting all of that into your employment or subcontractor agreements and understand the difference between an employee and a subcontractor and the requirements that you should have for your subcontractor. if you're utilizing a subcontractor to jump up and do tree work for you, and they don't have their own permits, they don't have their own licenses, they don't have their own insurance, there's a chance that the liability is gonna pass on to you anyways, okay? Make sure you have the correct verbiage and the correct requirements for your subcontractors versus your employees, okay? And this is something we're gonna jump into later, but I'm gonna state it real quick. And I know this is probably something that Latona sees a lot. Understand 1099 requirements, okay, for people who run a 9 to 5 Monday through Friday office. There's this weird little technicality that if they're a 1099 employee, you can't technically require them to be in the office Monday through Friday, 9 to 5. Okay? And that's something that I've seen a lot of attorneys don't even know when they subcontract paralegals and are requiring them to answer the phone 9 to 5 Monday through Friday. Okay? All of a sudden you're getting hit with huge tax implications because you're actually working them as an employee versus a subcontracted employee. Does that make sense?
Part of the label come knocking on the door.
Say that louder for all the people.
Yeah.
Also, the Department of Labor will come knocking on your door. I've owned a pest control company in New York for 22 years. I accidentally, not say accidentally, you don't know what you don't know until I got that. And they went through my books, and it cost me $65,000 because I was having people as 1099. But if I told them what to do, how to do it, and when to do it, they are considered employees.
All right, so what's your best recommendation? Hire people as W-2 or 1099?
I W-2 employees, period, end of story. I W-2 employees.
What would you recommend for a sales position where, you know, someone's a commission-based employee? That's a 1099, right?
Yep, that's a 1099 employee generally, right? Have your subcontractor agreement as fleshed out as possible as to the requirements that you do have, but understand that when you're going into a subcontractor 1099 agreement, you cannot require them to work certain days and certain hours, okay? You can set out expectations, right?
So if you have a 1099 employee who's just doing sales, you're saying you should have a subcontractor agreement with that employee?
Absolutely.
That's not an employee.
Subcontractor.
So the thing is, when you're using the term 1099, you got to drop the word employee, because they're not your employer. You're not their employer, or they're your employee. The thing is, if you're doing a subcontractor agreement, just ask availability, right? And then you're holding them to that availability, but you can't say, Blake, I need you in our office from 9 to 5, Monday through Wednesday. These are your responsibilities, because as an independent contractor, I work for myself, basically.
I'll say this, when it comes to subcontractors, generally what I've seen is, especially if they're commission-based, they're way more motivated to come to work. If their financial, stability depends on that job, they're going to show up and get the work done. You just can't require them certain days, certain hours. Okay? Alrighty. Another one that we have is not having a professional service agreement. We build into that again later. We'll go and just start doing little things for friends, family who then refer us, and we make, second contact friends or professional friends. We don't have a professional service agreement in place, like my letter of engagement I was talking about earlier, okay? If you're providing a service to somebody, that comes with liability, okay? They need to understand what liability that is. It can be an electronically signed document that they don't even read, but they are signing that they read and understood it. I think the average, they say, when it comes to liability waivers, service agreements, and things like that we've all signed 100 times, if we actually read all of them throughout our lifetime, we'd spend like 7 years. It's ridiculous, right? Because these things are long. We just sit there and scroll through them, check a box, press continue. Okay? If that's all your client does, you're still protecting yourself by having a built-out professional service agreement that protects you as a company. Make sure you have that in place. Make sure they sign it before you start any work for them. Okay? Are there any? Yes. Sorry.
So I have a question. So that's like a contract.
Yeah.
It's a contract.
That's exactly
So can you have in there the timeline for payment, and the invoice is going to hit this, when this is going to hit, payment is expected here, and these are the forms of payment accepted?
That's exactly it. Yep.
And it could even be, can it be, this contract does not include these things?
Yes, yes, absolutely. I love creativity in a contract because then we're catering it specifically to you, right? There are some, for example, attorneys generally send out invoices monthly, okay? And then we're looking at 2 weeks for payment. Whereas a landscaping company might bill weekly, and then they want a shorter time frame for payment before they start collecting on it, right? And there's certain requirements when it comes to notice of commencements versus lien filing with the state. So we do have to have certain requirements in there for payment and when that contract is considered breached, right, or not followed, in order to be able to act on the contract and make sure that our clients are paying us.
I found to get very specific with it.
You have to.
Because people have taken advantage of me, and
Yep.
it's hard because they're a nice client, but you gotta have that in place.
You absolutely have to.
So I've had to button up all of my contracts and be clear, because people say, well, I thought it included that. No,
Yeah.
it did not.
And if work continues to get added,
Yeah.
add an addendum to that professional service agreement, okay? That's just an additional part of the contract that outlines all of these extra services that you're adding, because before you know it, they paid for a service that's this big, and you're providing this much, right? Don't get stuck in that, because all of this right here, if they breach the contract and end up not paying you, because they only agreed to pay this much, guess how much they're gonna be held liable for? This much, because we didn't have an addendum to the contract. Keep building out your documents to protect you from all of your people, right? On top of that, when it comes to professional service agreements, we like to put in waiver of liability language. I talk about that a lot. The rule for me personally, if you are performing any type of work on somebody's body or on somebody's home, please put a liability waiver in your documents, okay? That I had a client recently, for example. They just got their esthetician license. They're very excited to provide everybody with beautiful, clean skin, okay? If somebody has an allergic reaction, because they, oh, do I really need an LLC? Do I really need this? Don't talk to me about that. Absolutely need all of it. What happens if you provide a service, they have this crazy allergic reaction, and they need a $30,000 facial reconstruction surgery? Who do you think is going to be held personally liable? Okay? Just understand that no matter the small service and no matter how close you are with your client, if something bad happens, they're going to come after you. Okay? Flesh out all those terms in your professional service agreement. Okay? And include your liability waiver. Here's a big one, and this one I personally love because there are certain entrepreneurs that like to take it upon themselves to build their own websites, me being included, that don't realize you need a terms of use and privacy policy on your website. Okay? And little companies like Wix or other ones might not suggest that you put it in there or flesh it out according to your type of business. Okay? For me specifically, I put the language on my website that this does not establish an attorney-client relationship, because there might be that one singular person that goes on my website, fills in my contact information for a DUI attorney. I don't do that. And they think they have an attorney all of a sudden. Right?
Also, if you have a website, make sure that it's handicapped certified, because if it's not, you could get sued for that.
Yeah, I'm learning a lot
I don't know
about.
what the lingo is, but
Yeah.
you have to have it handicapped certified.
There's so much when it comes to handicap certification on websites. There's a lot of ADA compliance issues with even logo formation. I actually got to learn a lot about that recently when it came to graphics. You have to submit your advertising to the Florida Bar. If there's certain graphics when you're putting your marketing materials out there that aren't friendly to people with color blindness, people with partial blindness, all of a sudden you're not ADA compliant, so it has to get approved by the Florida Bar before you're sending that stuff out. So understand that there's different compliance issues even when it comes to online marketing and paper marketing. Okay? All right, the last one for a young business. Signing agreements for your business as an individual and not an owner. What does that mean? If I purchase a piece of property and I sign my name and only my name on the contract, guess who's in the contract? Is it me or my business? You. Me. If I sign it as Kahlee L. Smith, comma, manager/owner of Hestia Legal PLLC, do you think it's me or do you think it's my business? My business. Any type of contracts, agreements, anything. Purchases, something very, very small. It doesn't have to be property. It can be a small little service contract that you're entering into. Make sure that you're establishing yourself as the owner manager and doing business as the business, not for yourself personally.
I just want to make sure, on ours, we have it typed in on the bottom, my name and business manager. Actually, it doesn't have my name, it just says, owner operator or something like that, and then I sign my name. Do I actually have to, when I'm signing it, say all of that? Or is it okay for it to be underneath that line?
Has anybody ever seen, this is such a crazy reference, has anybody ever seen the movie Zombieland?
Yeah.
Okay, do you remember the term double tap?
Yeah.
Okay, double tap, right? Kahlee Smith, comma NGR, and then as owner operator of Hestia Legal PLLC. Double it up. It takes, what, milliseconds to add NGR at the end. So it really establishes that you're signing only as the manager. If you put as owner operator of, right, you're still covered because you're putting as owner operator underneath your signature line, but it doesn't take any extra time to put comma NGR, so just do it. Double tap. Okay.
What about with bank accounts? When you open your business bank account,
Yeah.
and you're signing those contracts,
Absolutely.
you put on there as owner.
Absolutely. And a lot of times, if you have a good banker, they're not going to let you sign it any other way. I know Latona probably has a lot of people come to her and she's like, don't you sign it like that. Yes.
What if you haven't signed it like that and you need to go back and revise?
Yeah.
So like anyone that's established these documents already, how would you recommend going back and revising original documents?
Yep, so you can do a simple addendum and just state that it's as owner operator. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that people won't all of a sudden find out and try and get you for breach of contract, but as long as you can, put an addendum in place and it's just the signature page as owner operator of blah, blah, blah. Yeah. Addendums are everybody's best friends when it comes to contract law. Okay? Any other questions when it comes to young businesses or feedback for people who are in young business stage? Okay, now we get to pick on the people who have been doing this for a long time and think they haven't really figured out. One of the biggest things that I got to see at my old firm was handshake deals, okay? That means no contract in place at all. And then all of a sudden we don't know what work is supposed to be being performed, how much it's gonna cost, anything like that. We have a really great good old boys network here in Lake County and I absolutely love it and thrive on it when it comes to marketing. But if you don't have the right documents in place, again, friends and family especially are probably gonna be the first ones that are gonna come after you and say, well, actually you agreed to a $50,000 renovation of my shed. It wasn't $5,000, I mistyped it in my text message to you. Okay? Don't do handshake deals with people. Write it out. It doesn't take that long. Okay? Another big one, and this is a little bit more of a sensitive topic, but ignoring important HR policies. Okay? There is a client of mine who love them, but they don't understand the importance of workplace harassment policies. Okay? And I was just like, it's not that hard. It's a one-page document. Pass it out in your new hire paperwork. Have them sign it. Because the last thing that you want is get a letter from the EEOC, okay, that states that there was some kind of discrimination in the workplace. Okay, you need to really flesh out what's going on and what you expect of your employees, and put that in your HR requirements. And if you don't have an HR person, you need to find somebody to do all of that for you. Okay? Sit down, talk with an attorney, get the forms ready so it's easily fillable and get a new hire paperwork done. Yes, ma'am?
So I have a question, right? So we have like those other coaches and therapists and stuff. And I'm thinking like, even though they're 1099, they're their own people, this is something that maybe I could have them sign to cover me, because I'm not in the therapy session with them. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, now I'm thinking, wait, so should I have something like that in place for them, even though they're 1099, they've established their own business, but to cover my business, because technically they're representing me, like when I come, they come, so what do you do that?
Yeah, so put that into the terms of your subcontractor agreement, okay? Because we can't technically have new hire paperwork for somebody who's not an employee, but in your subcontractor agreement so they understand all of these little idiosyncrasies that go into your business, right? Another big HR policy that I see violated all the time are certain questions that you can't ask in interviews. Okay. Religious affiliation, that's a big one. Sexual orientation, that's a big one. Don't ask those questions, especially if you're not gonna hire that person, okay? All of a sudden, there's a whole world of trouble. Yelp reviews are gonna be the least of your problems, okay? Just because you didn't hire them doesn't mean that they can't file a lawsuit against you. All right, have good HR policies in place so you're not facing that type of litigation later, okay? Commingling funds, as we get our business going and we've hired our big team of friends and family that are never gonna, mess us up, we get very comfortable swiping our business debit card like it's our own personal debit card. We have Starbucks every morning and lunch every day, and this gives Latona the ick, okay, because it's not okay. Those aren't business purchases. And when we commingle funds, we're bridging the gap of liability between us as a person and our business. Do not commingle your funds. Keep it completely separate. Sorry, but you can't treat yourself to Starbucks every morning. I wish I could. Okay? Something brand new, 2024 requirement that I guarantee established businesses aren't paying attention to, because a lot of attorneys don't have the education on it either, is your BOI with FinCEN, beneficial ownership interest. Okay? You have to register your BOI starting as of January 1st, 2024. Get on the FinCEN website, have a professional do it. If you've already done it and you're not really sure, send me a screenshot. I'll let you know if it was done correctly. Okay? You're going to get confirmation that you got it done, and you're not going to get fined. Right? You don't want to pay out money when we could have just filled out a quick form online. So if you're an established business and you've never heard of this BOI, sit and talk to me or sit and talk to one of your other attorneys, right? Sit and talk to somebody else in the room that might know what a BOI is. Make sure you're getting it done because it's a new requirement, whether you're an established business or a brand new business. Yes, Michelle?
Is that a one-time thing or an annual thing?
One time.
One time.
Yep.
What's it stand for again?
Beneficial ownership interest. And it's with FinCEN, FINCEN. Yes, yes.
Now, that's going to be per LLC, correct?
That's right. That's right. Anything that you own. So if you own separate LLCs, for example, I have my LLC for my company, and then I have a holding company that owns my building. I have to fill it out per LLC. Okay? You don't just get to group everybody in one.
And this is also for businesses that you may not be actively participating in, but they are actively on those Secretary of State websites. If you're not planning on working that business, dissolve the business. Because the BOI is going to look for that paperwork for that business, whether you're working it or not.
And kind of building off of that, this wasn't something I talked about previously when talking about scams or even last night. I have the last name Smith. If you think that I don't look for every website as to somebody's registered something under my name, you are joking yourself. Okay? I will get my identity stolen on a weekly basis if I'm not constantly checking. So go and check to be sure, okay? Or if you set up an LLC 20 years ago and you forgot and it may have been administratively dissolved, or you have an attorney that continues to file your annual filing for you, go and check. Because if you don't file your BOI, you're going to be held liable with the state. Yes, Amy?
Is this just for LLCs or is it for S corps?
Corporations, all of it. Any business ownership. Sole proprietors. Sole proprietors if you're registered with the state, but generally sole proprietors do not register with the state. Generally. Okay. Any other questions related to BOI? Okay. Another thing that I see established businesses not have in place, and this is one of my favorite things to set up because I'm both an estate planning attorney and a business attorney, is not having a business succession plan in place. And that kind of builds into a little bit of what we were talking about earlier. If somebody passes away, okay? Or if you're wanting to hand down the business. Or, and this is where there's a weird line in estate planning and business law, if you become incapacitated and can't operate your business for a short period of time. Especially in high liability companies, right? If it's a single owner of a tree company, he's booked out for 6 months, takes a bit of a tumble and he's in a coma for 3. Who's supposed to take over? technically, nobody has any legal ability to operate that business. Have a succession plan in place. And think through all the options. You retiring, you passing away, you being unable to operate your business for whatever reason, right? Have a succession plan in place. That can go in your bylaws and your operating agreement, articles of incorporation, or your partnership agreement. Okay? Does anybody have any questions on succession planning? And then, of course, not completing annual requirements is a really big thing that we see established businesses not do. I just had somebody call the other day and he's like, hey, I thought my attorney was filing my annual reports. That's something you have to do annually with the state. If you have an LLC, corporation, anything, make sure you're updating it. Okay? It's a $400 late fee after a certain amount of time. I thought my attorney was doing it. It doesn't look like he did. Is this something you can do? I send them out batches, right? Batch annual filings. We just block off a whole day and just submit them all, okay? If you don't do this, not only could you be subject to a late fee, which is terrible. $400 is a lot when you're only paying, a couple hundred, barely. You could be administratively dissolved, okay? And then all of a sudden you're operating a business that's not a legal business, and then that weird personal liability to business liability bubble is becoming one thing, okay? Make sure you're on top of your annual filings with the state. On top of that, if there's licensure filings required on an annual basis, I have a good friend who owns a restaurant that also serves beer and wine. So they have certain licensing, and I mean, it's staggered. None of it can happen at the same time for them. There's one license required here, their beer and wine license required here. Put it on your calendar for a month ahead of time, so as you're snoozing that alarm that keeps telling you to do it, you've got 30 days to get it done. All right, or put it in the hands of a trusted professional who's going to get it done for you. Okay? Does anybody have any questions on annual requirements? This is what I've got for established business. I'll put my contact information up on the screen, but I want to open up the floor for any general questions and answers. Feel free to throw it at me. Yes, Christian.
My question to you as a lawyer, and someone who probably does these documents, how much is it for you to do a subcontractor's agreement?
Yeah. Generally, I look at an hourly rate when drafting documents. It really depends on how fleshed out it gets. I do these documents at a rate of $100 per hour. Okay. Do not write it down that all attorneys are going to provide it for $100 an hour, because that's just not true. I'm telling you right now. I do it for $100 an hour. My firm. Yes. Yeah. Anybody else? Questions?
So going back to W-2 versus 1099, we talked about a book called The E-Myth, and that tells you how to structure a business, and each position in the business has a set detail of those job requirements. And when I think about this, how detailed when you do an employee contract as a W-2 employee should that get? Because then if you ask them to do something outside of what that contract says, and they say, no, I don't want to do it, is there, where does that fall in, and how detailed or should it be somewhat umbrellaed in a W-2 employee contract?
Yeah, so when it comes to W-2, you've got a little bit of flexibility. We love this term in legalese called any and all other requirements. All right, within reason, okay? Because if you are running a bookkeeping company and you've got them climbing trees, any and all other is not going to fall under that, okay? It has to be within reason, so I like to put it in there. Any and all other required within reason, right? So flesh it out as much as you can, put in any and all other, and then you can kind of build out from there. Now, if it's something that's a specialty project, it doesn't hurt to add an addendum that requires all the extra stuff for the specialty project, okay? Especially if it's one that's going to be ongoing for a couple months. Or if you have anybody that's acting interim for another person's position, get an addendum. Yes, ma'am.
I remember being a teacher, and one of the statements was in the contract for what I taught was must be able to lift 25 pounds. And that was for a typewriter back in the day. So they covered themselves.
Yeah,
how you do it.
That actually shows up a lot still for paralegal job requirements too. What is 25 pounds? Yeah, just be able to pick up that case of paper. Yeah.
Your contract. If you're a service provider, one of the big things to have is error and omission insurance. So.
Yeah. Big shout out to all the notaries too. I believe they require you to have their insurance, yeah, for notaries. So, and if your notary does not have that, he can judge a little deeper. Any other questions? Business questions? You guys made it easy on me. Last night they were hitting me pretty hard. We follow this thing called the Socratic method in law school. I can't recall if I talked about it. A lot of bouncing back and forth. So if you do have questions, I always offer free consultations. Okay, so we've got very specific to your business industry. Delaney's handing out my business cards right now.
In case anybody wants them, they're right here.
Yeah, I offer free consultations because I genuinely want to get to know you as a person and you and your business, okay? Come, bring a list of questions. I generally dedicate about an hour. We can flesh out what you might need or what you might not need, okay? Because there's this really dangerous thing called the internet that tells you a lot of things that you don't need, okay? The number of people, and I think I was telling Monty about this last night, the number of people who send me TikTok videos asking if they need to do this drives me a little insane. So if I put my phone down for an hour, it's because too many people send me TikTok videos asking if this is for real, okay?
What specialties do you practice?
Yeah, so as far as specialties, Monty, I actually loved it, so I'm gonna steal it from you. My bread is estate planning and my butter is business law, okay? We like to put that under the umbrella of transactional law. I stay out of the courtroom as much as possible, but if there was a need for litigation for my clients, then I assist them through it. When it comes to business law, what falls under that, any of the stuff that we covered today, right? Contracts that you might need for your business, formation assistance, annual filings, anything like that. That's okay. I'm not gonna say no.
Monty, trademark that and then charge her.
I'll get to the computer first.
Can you talk a little bit about the services that you have for estate planning, for since we have a lot of elderly in this area and
Sure.
some realtors in here?
Absolutely. Yeah, so real quick, when it comes to estate planning, we offer it based on package, but I always get to know you as a person and suggest a package I think that makes the most sense. I'll be honest, when I got into the legal field, they really tried to push sales on me and that makes me uncomfortable. I'm not that person. I want to get to know you and offer you what is actually meant for you. When it comes to estate planning, there's two different main packages. You're looking at a trust-based package or a will-based package. Will, last will and testament, guaranteed ticket to probate unless we do beneficiary planning. And trust, the biggest goal in trust-based planning is to avoid probate and all the high costs of probate and potential probate litigation. In with estate planning, we also do, sorry Jim, we also do deed-based planning and minor planning. A lot of people don't think about it, but as a new mom, well, relatively, she's 2, but as a new mom myself, something that's really important to get in place for your young ones is a healthcare surrogate for minor if mom or dad are out of town and they need grandma or grandpa to make medical decisions for a minor, or if something happens to both mom and dad, who's going to take care of your little one.
So I'm gonna tell my story, but she's heard this before. So Kahlee and I were in BNI together, and we had coffee one morning, and I said, my wife and I have nothing in place. And it got really quiet, and Kahlee got really big eyes. And I call it the Kahlee look. You know, I'm 61, and I have nothing in place. Don't be 61 and have nothing in place, because you don't know what tomorrow brings. Don't give your attorney or kid, don't get that Kahlee look because you're 61 and have nothing in place. It's just personal protection. And that was a great question, Greg, but I still think about that when we're, and it's just like, I mean, the face dropped, the eyes got really big, and it's like, wow, don't make her do that.
I'll explain real quick too why I got into estate planning. It started out as a very simple clerkship when I was in law school. It was supposed to just be a summer thing and I continued on with it. But it was the summer of 2016 and anybody who was local knew that was the summer of the Pulse shooting in Orlando. I was 20 something when that happened, and a lot of the people that were involved in that passed away or were hurt were my age. And that was huge. My firm took on 2 pro bono probate cases and then assisted a lot of the parents because as parents of adult children, you no longer have the legal ability to make health care and legal and financial decisions for them once they turn 18. right? So seeing individuals going through that process that were my age, that never thought that that night they went out, that they wouldn't be coming back home that night, that really hit home for me. It's not, I address misconceptions when it comes to estate planning. It's not about being old or wealthy, okay? It can happen in your 20s, okay? It can happen too if you have a young family. Any major life changes that you're hitting, you want to have it reviewed or put it in place.
As a realtor, I work with elderly, especially in the mobile home communities and the 55 and older communities. One of the biggest things that I see now is things that will go to probate because it wasn't set up properly, whether they pass away or they're incapacitated or whatever in regards to they can't, coma, whatever. Dementia is a huge one, and if you guys don't have powers of attorneys in place or in this case, beyond the living will aspect of it, all that's gonna go into probate to the government, and it's gonna take forever to get your home or whatever that needs to be sold. So please, look for your parents, and get all this taken care of.
And
It takes forever.
I'll touch a little bit on Alzheimer's and dementia specifically. Obviously, I see that a lot in my field of work. If you, as an adult child, have not set up the power of attorney or healthcare surrogate, that automatically takes place and becomes effective when your elderly parent becomes incapacitated, right? Unable to sign documents on their own behalf because they have Alzheimer's or dementia. You're gonna have to go through a process called the guardianship process, and that's through the court. It's not only expensive, it's timely, and mom and dad says no before they're determined to be incapacitated and unable to make decisions for themselves, and it's done right then and there. Okay? Get these documents in place. I know they're uncomfortable conversations, but I try to give you peace of mind as much as I can as far as planning, right? Plan for options A through Z. Don't think it's gonna jinx you, because that 2-year warranty I got on my vacuum, the vacuum's lasting me 15 years.
You know, you just jumped on memory. I've heard stories of where scammers have gone to these elderly people and had them sign over things, and when they were in a stage like this, and so have that preset to where you guys have control, because once scammers get that, you're screwed.
And know that your estate planning can go hand in hand with your business succession planning. All of the language, if I'm sitting down with a small business owner who's also planning for their family, that business succession planning language can reflect in their estate planning, right? So we assign ownership of an LLC over to a trust, for example, and then we name in the trust documents who would be taking over the LLC, and then that LLC language is all of that is reflected in the operating agreement of the LLC. So in working with somebody who does both for you, the language is going to mirror each other and just works way more seamlessly. Yes, ma'am.
So I am one of those people before my father passed, did not want to sign anything over, and please, for the sake of your children, it is extremely challenging to take care of a person who has said, I don't want no help, and they can't help themselves. It's impossible. And then whenever they pass away, the state gets everything.
Does anybody else have any questions for me today? Yes, ma'am.
I have a quick question. I don't know if you can just answer it out of hand, but
I can try.
If you have a trust in place that's, signed and everything, and a property is named in the trust, but the property has not been titled into the trust, you have to title it in, right?
Okay. Anything that has legal title, it's a mutual process there. So while the trust might state that it owns it, if the state doesn't see that the trust owns it, then it doesn't matter. It's subject to probate. Get a deed. Yes, ma'am. That's why I do deed-based planning with all of my estate planning as well. Throw it into the packages. That way it's reflected on both ends in your personal documents and in the state's records. Yep. Questions, comments, concerns? Okay. Well, thank you guys so much for having me. It was great to be a part of this.
Okay, is this on? No? No.
Yes.
The lights are everybody's home now, test? Okay.
No.
No, we got another.
She deserves it.
Okay, batteries. Who have we got? Oh, Delaney Foster. Great. Michelle. Okay, sorry, I know this is your card, and I thought, well, maybe it's
It's two-sided.
an independent contractor or a.
Nope.
Oh, there's Michelle. Okay, come right up, Michelle. I thought you had somebody else. Oh, Kathy Russell. Here you are. Come right up. Kathy Blake, where's Blake? We're gonna grant you a prize too because you're a young professional person here. So come right up. Do we have? Yep. Help yourself to anything. Do we have any community announcements? Marie, you got a couple announcements? Tell us your normal announcements.
Normal announcements. And then I want to recognize Amanda, who's going to talk about her launch party. But next month is National Small Business Month, and the Chamber is going to get in the mode of a celebration. So our next breakfast will be celebrating our small business owners, our entrepreneurs. It's going to be a happy time, nothing real heavy, but we're also going to have one of our incubator EDU students come and make a presentation on their product that they're marketing, and their competition will be in Claremont on the 23rd. So we will have a winner or non-winner, but in our community it's considered a winner. So that's the Incubator EDU program. So May, remember, put the 1st of May on your calendar. If you're not a member, you might want to become a member. We're having some incentives. We'll be posting that to get you in. And it is like a family. When you walk in there, you know everybody, and everybody knows you. It's kind of like Cheers, but without the alcohol. So go ahead and check that out. And then Amanda has her launch. Go ahead and talk about it, Amanda.
So next Wednesday, I will be having my grand opening for my business at the Eustis Chamber. It's from 5 to 7. So I would gladly appreciate if you all have anything to do, if you would show up to support me in this launch. And after that, the next event is a workshop that I'm having, scheduled for the 25th of this month. And I'll talk more about that as I get everything planned for that. But it's to launch my group coaching program. So all of this is to launch my group coaching program. I've never had a grand opening before.
Friday the 19th?
It's the Wednesday the 17th.
Wednesday the 17th.
Wednesday the 17th.
5 to 7.
From 5 to 7.
Go ahead.
Young professionals will be meeting in this room next week, Tuesday, 6 to 8. And we're having Fred Carmenpar come and present. He is the owner and CEO of the FMK Group, which manages several of the most popular restaurants in the villages. His talent is scouted for scaling and growing. He'll be coming and sharing, and the panel will be interviewing him, and the opportunity to kind of pick his brain as far as scaling that business from that solo entrepreneur into multiple locations. And we have our registration here, and you get a discount if you sign up ahead of time.
I would ask for a show of hands, but I think they would all go up if I asked how many of you want to grow professionally, how many of you want to enhance your skills. I think you could go, first point is the young professionals, but I'm biased, just because we always have a talented speaker. But second thing is this AI. So I don't know anyone in the room I could look at to tell me and explain what AI can do for me and expound upon it where I have a full understanding. But I can point to the screen to Dr. Justin Greathouse, and I know he can. So it's free, it's an educational seminar. ROV has partnered with Lake Sumter State College to do so. So he does that same thing in integrating how teachers can leverage AI in education. So he's a practitioner, he's done his homework, and we'll be at the Mount Dora Training Depot next Thursday, April 18th, only because Meg is booked, of course. We all love this space. So yeah, I encourage you guys to join us there. Thank you.
I'll be there.
And I have a workshop, lead SBDC and the incubator, we're doing a workshop April 26th in Claremont. So I'll have the flyer next week. So if you want to join us, details are coming. So any other announcements? We need presenters. So if you'd like to present, come talk with one of us. We'd love to have you. And any other comments, questions, concerns? No? All right, well, thank you all for coming today. We appreciate it. We're going to take a picture. So if you come right up, we're going to take a group picture. Thank you.
A friend of mine played this golf.
Get tighter. We can put chairs in the front. We need chairs. We've got chairs here in front. Okay, guys, come sit. Come on up front. Okay. Keep coming. We're kind of like straggling out. Let's. Haley, come up front. I'll sit. Okay, Blake, take a seat up front. Can you fit us? Come on in.
Picture time, please. All right, one's up. With the appropriate finger.
No fun.
He's ribbon.
Okay. Thank you. Yeah. Great look.
He said he's appropriate finger. Look at that.
Now lock the door, man. People walking out on your bathroom, man. Now lock the door. He's lived a good life.